worked together already pretty heavily, so he had access to him, and so he sent it to him, and he was like, "I love it. I'm on it." And he went and did what Pharaoh March does, and
Right.
then I didn't even have a hook. Like all I knew I wanted to do was say that verse, but I didn't have an idea for what the hook could be. And it's that way sometimes with certain songs where it's like, yo, I know what I want to rhyme about, but I don't know how to turn this into a song. And
Right.
Pharaoh was the one who really brought it home.
Yeah, I struggle with that all the time. Like I have ideas for topics, man. It just I don't know what voice to rap it from, and sometimes I gotta let the beat tell me how I'm supposed to rhyme to it. So I think that's a lost art, to be honest. I think why I mess with artists like you and Pharaoh and Black Thought so heavy, man. There's a lot of I can tell there's a lot of thought that goes into each word, each phrase, each punchline. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of what I miss about when I hear some of these new cats. Not all of them, because some of them are really, really talented, but I miss that. So let me take you back to the mid 90s, man. I got into the business in about 94, 95 through the Wake Up Show, right? With Tech and Sway or whatever. Yep. You were kind of already at the peak of the golden era, right? So some people say the golden era was like 87 and 93, right? And so take me back to that era, man, and then juxtapose it to like this era, like, or not even this era, but like, because I feel like it was two waves of golden eras. It was like the golden era from 87 to 93, like people like yourself and the Juice Crew and all that. And then I came the second wave, which was like the Raucous, Dilated Peoples, Jurassic 5, you know, Black Thought, Most Def, Black Star, that era. So take me back to that golden peak, man. How was it for you then, and then versus how you've been so consistent since?
I feel like I'm a tweener. I'm kind of like right in between those two eras, because I was still kind of trying to find myself and come into my own in that second wave that you described. I still hadn't put my stamp on the game, at least not from my point of view. Even though people had heard me on the symphony and they considered that a hip hop classic, I still hadn't really gotten my feet wet the way I wanted to. I was being controlled by the music industry and the rules and parameters that revolve around being signed to a label, a major. Even though I was on, Delicious Vinyl, which is technically an independent, but they were controlled by a major distributor. So I had to play by those rules. And so it wasn't until I got out of that. But to look at that era, there was just so much innovation going on at that time, from a lyrical standpoint, from a sound standpoint. We were still discovering what the possibilities of this hip hop music could be, what it could sound like. It was still pioneering going on.
Right.
People think that the pioneering took place during the Melly Mel, Furious 5, the Treacherous 3, Cold Crush Brothers days. But nah, that pioneering continued to happen all the way through the mid 90s into the early 2000s. We were still finding new ways to express ourselves musically, and still to this day are.
For sure.
So, but there was a lot of pioneering during that time, and one thing about me, I try to pay attention to what's happening around me. I try to listen to other music that's coming out, even if maybe I can't relate to it directly or specifically. I still find myself trying to hear as much new music as I can, and that's what fueled me, and that's what kept me consistent, what kept me engaged in this music is continuing to be a fan of it and listen to it. So when I started going on tour in 01, I was on the road with Wordsworth and Punchline and Strickland, and those guys are all younger than me, and they, to me, had their hands on the pulse of what was happening musically in the early 2000s. And so because we were on tour together and on the road together, they would, on those long van rides, every day somebody new had an opportunity to play music for the van. So they were always playing stuff that I probably never would have heard. Who's that? Right. Or who's that rhyme right there? Who's that? I don't recognize that voice. Or that's such and such. Oh, okay, he's kind of dope. play some more by him. And so that was kind of the training ground in a certain sense for me, just in terms of just staying engaged and locked in with the sounds, the music, the evolution of the music. And that's why I didn't really get stuck in, my first wave in 1991. I didn't get stuck in that second wave in 95, 96. I continued to evolve with the music because I continued to listen to it. So many of my peers, my age or even older, they kind of get caught up in what they consider to be the golden sound. And they can't hear anything beyond that. And to me, that's a mistake. You gotta always, as a creative person, you gotta always be willing to push the envelope. I'm not saying start doing trap music or drill music. I'm saying be open to these new sounds, these new possibilities, these new ways of laying hooks down or whatever it is, but just be paying attention. And that's what I've tried to do. And that's what's helped me get to this point.
Yeah, like for me, I feel like because I work with kids, I work with high school kids mostly. And so I listen to what they listen to. A lot of it I can't stand, but I understand why they like it though. You know what I'm saying? And so as a producer, when I'm producing stuff and I do a lot of stuff for TV, I got to stay with the times anyway. So my sounds are a little different. So yeah, I would love to just pull out a break beat and, and flip some Dusty Finger break beats or something like that. But, also things evolve. So I get what you're saying on that, man. And I know a lot of, people that are considered pioneers in the game, they kind of stuck in their suit of what they, what they've known for, and they stay in that box. And I think that limits their creativity, because I know a lot of them still rhyme. You never really lose the art of rhyming, really. You kind of lose the fire for what's specifically hot now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know it's stuff you could probably say from your 91 rhymes that you could say today over any beat. You know what I'm saying? It really wouldn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Just how you phrase and you put stuff together. Let me take you back to the Slaughterhouse record. I see it in the background. When that record came out, it was really just before the whole East Coast, West Coast beef. For me, being a West Coast kid, I remember getting that record. I was in a record pool. I remember getting that record and was kind of blown away by just the creativity in it, right? And so I thought it was real creative on your part to kind of play that role that you played, man. But take me back to that. And did you get any backlash for that from West Coast cats?
I didn't get any backlash. People brought it up to me years later, like 20 years later. People would say to me, "Yeah, I thought you was kind of coming at the West Coast when you did that album," and I was like, "Nah." I just tried to explain it. I mean, I explained it in an interview, so I think that's why there was no backlash. That was just a time period where, NWA was huge at that time. They were selling the most records out of anybody, East, West, whatever, and the record labels. Because I was kind of between labels when NWA came out. And the record labels, everybody was looking to sign what they considered to be gangster rap.
Right.
And so it started to feel to me like if you weren't rapping about these particular topics, guns, drugs, murder, alcohol, weed, if those topics weren't at the top of your subject list, labels were not interested. And so as an artist that was trying to get a new deal, a new situation, I was frustrated. I was like, man, this is some bullshit. Like,
for sure.
So all y'all gonna do is sign a whole bunch of NWA sound-alikes. Like, that's what we're doing. And so it was more of me speaking about the industry, the condition of the industry, more than it was about, a particular sound or a particular group. I just hated the fact that it had to be all about those negative things in order for you to get a deal, in order for you to get a look, to get a nod. I'm like, man, it's all kinds of hip hop out here. Like, it ain't just about that. Okay, right. That's selling the most right now, but people rap about other stuff. And I just wasn't. I didn't feel like I was getting heard. I was being heard, and so it was my way of just kind of putting the middle finger up to the whole industry. And so that's how I exercise my frustration through that album.
Yeah, no, as a West Coast kid, I took it as that. I took it as because that was, like I said, it was right around the time where I started rhyming, and so I was going to record labels at that time, and that they were looking just for gangster rap. And at the time, what I was doing wasn't gangster enough, right? And I was a West Coast kid, but I always got put into the East Coast bag. Everybody thought I was from the East Coast when my first record came out, which always confused me.
I thought you. I didn't know you from the West Coast.
Yeah, I got that a lot. A lot of people either thought I was from Boston or I was from from somewhere in New York, and I thought I made that pretty clear on my album cover with the Dodger jersey, but I get it. Most of my influence are East Coast. Some of my favorite rappers, man, my influence is Chill Rob G, yourself, Special Ed. Like
Chill Rob G, yo.
Yeah, I was that kid. So my cousin was from the Bronx, and he used to send me Mr. Magic tapes all the time. And so when I first heard Chill Rob G, man, I lost my mind. I wrote them rhymes down. I wanted to know how he did that. You know what I'm saying? So I would take it home.
Chill Rob don't get mentioned enough.
Not enough. I think he's one of the unsung heroes of the double entendre, and just his cadence was always spectacular, man. So I was always in tune to that. And so I always got thrown into the East Coast bag, especially during the middle of the whole East Coast, West Coast beef. That's kind of when I started rhyming. And so it went through that, man. But I appreciate your perspective on that, man. And just how that went down, man. And the creativity behind it was also dope too, with that record too. So for me, man, mental health is important to me. But I've noticed many artists, man, young and old, aren't healthy mentally, physically. I see you, man. I remember seeing you at a show. I think Revolution was your DJ. It was in downtown LA at the Airliner. And and I was like, this dude looked like he's like 25, 30 years old, man. I swear to God. You know what I'm saying? And so I always respected the fact that you maintain a certain level of health. How can we promote that more in our culture?
Great question. First, it has to come in the music. I got the shirt on today. Plant-based. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Plant-based. And so one of the songs on the new album with me and Marco Polo, that's the title of the song. It's called Plant-based. And so a lot of our communication as artists comes through the music, and so that's always the first step, because the music has a huge influence on the people that listen to it, whether they want to admit it or not. And that influence can either be negative or it can be positive. And so I think it would start with the music. And I think, having some community outreach kind of programs. Like I know in my old neighborhood where I grew up at, Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is one of the rougher parts of New York City, I'm starting to see new things popping up. Like in my actual housing project, at least the last time I was there, there was this field in the middle of the projects called the Big Circle. That's where we used to always play the pickup football games. Like that's why I came up playing football, was in the Big Circle. And they turned the Big Circle into a community garden. Like,
oh, that's dope.
A place where I used to run around and play football in the dirt and dust is now a full-fledged garden. I haven't been there in a few years, so I hope it's still up. But the last time I was out there, I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is nice. Like, and so those are the kinds of programs, though, that can help at least spark conversation about within our community about health, wellness, eating right. And so, there's definitely mentions on the new album. Besides that one song, there's definitely some lyrics, some lines thrown in there about that topic specifically.
Yeah, I know for me, man, my cousin passed away of a heart attack. I want to say it was 2013. He was 47. And he was overweight at the time, and I believe I was 403 pounds. You know what I'm saying? I ain't a very tall dude, so I was carrying a lot. I remember from that point, man, 2014 to 2016, I want to say I lost 183 pounds. right? So now I got down
that's
about,
congratulations.
thank you, man. I got down about